What is up, guys? iDusk here, and I got another Gears of War 4 tips and tricks for you all today. Today I'm going to be giving you guys some tips and tricks for improving your King of the Hill gameplay. I got some gameplay on the map Dam, and this is going to be a pretty average gameplay, nothing too crazy, but I feel like it's a pretty good game that demonstrates a lot of what I'm going to be talking about during this video. Now, before I get into it, let me make a quick disclaimer that this is a guide on how to be a better King of the Hill player. This is not a guide to pick up more kills in King of the Hill. I know a lot of players play King of the Hill just because they want to rack up those kills, and I am not about that life. So if you're looking to pad your KD, then don't even waste your time with this video. Go ahead and click on, go to the next one. But if you're looking to win more games and be a better King of the Hill player, then this video is for you. So let's jump right into it. First tip, don't make yourself look like a fucking idiot and start talking shit at the start of the match, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up getting your ass kicked into oblivion and you're going to look like a fucking moron. So please, just spare yourself the embarrassment, save the shit talking for after the match. Okay, but let's get serious now. The real first tip, and I think this is the most important thing in King of the Hill, is to know where the hills are going to spawn. The hills don't really move in a specific order every time, but there are about 5 to 10 hills on each map, and the game does tell you where the next hill will move 10 seconds before it does, but you really want to try to gauge where the hill will end up before that. And it's important to do that because getting an early setup for a hill is a huge advantage. You'll see in this gameplay a few times I do correctly predict where the next hill is going to spawn, and I make sure to position myself nearby long before the game notifies everywhere else where it's going to be. You won't predict this all the time, but if you follow a few good general rules, you can get really good at predicting where the hills are going to move. First, a hill will never move to a location if it's already been used in that round. The only exception to that is if every possible hill location has been used, then it will start repeating hills. So for example, if a hill spawns on the grenades on this map Dam here, I now know for the rest of the round that that hill will not be moving to grenades. So try to remember where each hill has been during the round, as that information is going to help you predict a lot more hills. Next, if the hill is currently somewhere towards the center of the map, the next hill is likely going to be towards the sides of the map. So again, an example on Dam would be that if the current hill is, let's say, on the boom shot, the next hill is probably going to be one of the trucks. And this is where keeping track of what hills have currently been used really comes into play. If I know the east truck, for example, has already had a hill in it, then I know that the west truck is likely going to be the next hill, and I can put myself there long before the game tells anybody else. Lastly, the hill usually tends to move as far away from the current hill as possible. So if the current hill is, let's say, on boom shot, it's pretty unlikely that it's going to move to grenades. It's still possible, it might happen, but it's more likely going to move to either the side hills, or it's going to move all the way back to the sniper side of the map. Keep in mind, this all varies on each map. Some maps do have more hills than others, and that sort of changes up how the hills are going to move. But just do your best to follow those few little guidelines, especially keeping track of which hills have already been used, and you'll be able to predict a lot more hills. The next tip is sort of like a basic one, but I can't stress it enough, is to use teamwork. Seriously, besides escalation, this game type is by far the most teamwork dependent. I do not recommend solo queuing in King of the Hill. You should really try to get at least one other person to play with you, but because even just one teammate who has a mic and is working with you, it just makes a world of a difference. If you are running solo, then you should still try your best to work with your team. Look out for them. Hopefully they'll do the same for you. The best way to non-verbally communicate with your team is marking enemies, which, oh my god, that should just be default by now, but people still do not do it, so I have to include it in pretty much every guide I make, and I'm going to keep including it in every single guide until I see more people using it. I'm tired of being the only person marking targets. Okay, but moving on from that, another good thing to do if you're more of a well-rounded player, and this is something that I personally try to do when I'm playing by myself, is to sort of analyze how your team is playing and then try to fill in the holes in what they aren't doing. Let's say you notice your teammate is dropping 60 plus kills and they aren't really playing for the hill, then maybe you should fill that hole and be the objective player. If you notice that your teammates are playing really passively with rifles, then maybe try being that player who's picking up the 60 plus kills and being the slaying role. Changing up your playstyle is a really good way to correct your team's flaws, and that will increase your chances of winning the game a lot. Alright, moving on to the third tip. Learn how to organize a setup around the hill. Once you have control of the hill, you do not need to keep standing in it. Instead, you should focus on the key areas around the hill. You don't want to make the mistake of having 3 people just sitting in the hill all lancering one guy, only to have the enemy team sneak in from behind and just wipe everybody out. The key to having a good setup is understanding how the spawns work in King of the Hill. I'm going to show you an overhead image of the map here, and these blue circles represent where you can respawn on this map. The spawn system isn't exactly easy to understand. It can sometimes seem really unpredictable, and that's kind of because it is sometimes, but generally you're going to spawn at the location that's closest to the majority of your teammates, and it's not like right on top of the hill. Rarely you will not spawn near enemy players unless both of you happen to die at the exact same time and you're both respawning at the same time. Then I've had instances where you both spawn on the exact same point, and that's just kind of crazy. But understanding this makes it clear on how you want to be setting up. For example, let's say the boom shot is where the current hill is. You do not want to have your entire team sitting on the hill because then enemies are going to be spawning all around you. Instead, if you have teammates near the grenade pit, that will mean that enemies will primarily be attacking from the north side of the map by the snipers or by the trucks. And now that you know that, it makes it a lot easier to set up a defense around the hill. Even if it's just you and one friend you're playing with, just knowing where the enemies will generally be coming from before they spawn, that is a huge advantage, and it can really help you avoid being in bad positions. Fourth tip is to know the best rifle positions and make sure your team has those positions. I cannot stress how important this one is because there will be games where I'm just sitting in a really good spot with my Lancer and I'll just be outright destroying the other team, and nobody even really notices. They don't even try to challenge me because they're too focused on just running into the hill and dying, running into the hill and dying over and over again. And I get it. Even if your team is losing and you need to get control of the hill, it can be kind of stressful. But even if you don't have control of the hill currently, you really need to focus on the areas around the hill. A very commonly known position is on the map Gridlock, where the hill, when it's in the shot grenade area, having somebody with a Lancer or Hammerburst on the balcony will pretty much lock that hill down. Again, this is something that will vary on each map, but you should really try to remember where these positions are. Typically, if you want to look for a spot where you can get a clear line of fire to the hill, but you're far enough out of the way that an enemy would have to sort of take a detour in order to deal with you. You don't want to put yourself too far away though, otherwise you won't be able to take your Gnasher out and push the hill if need be. And finally, one last tip I have: towards the end of the round, if you're winning, your whole team should be moving right on top of the hill. You'll see that in this gameplay, both rounds I do that, and the reason why is because in the final 10 or 20 seconds or so, the enemy team is just going to get desperate and they're going to flat out bum rush the hill. They likely won't get control this way. They're going to keep, obviously if they're just rushing in blindly, they're going to get killed, but they can break the hill, which depending on the score, that could cost you the game. In the last round of this game, the hill was on sniper side. We had just enough time to win the game on that hill as long as the hill didn't break. If the enemy team managed to break the hill might have moved, and that might have just been the chance they needed to come back and win. Of course, in this gameplay here, that's not really likely. They were down by a whole lot, but if the game was closer, let's say that they only needed 30 seconds to win, that hill change where they are set up for, that could end up winning them the game. So around the last 20 or 10 seconds or so, you just want to get in close to the hill and so you can gun down all the rushers. And if they do manage to break the hill, hopefully you'll have like 3 teammates in the hill, which will cap it like pretty much instantaneously. Alright guys, so that's all the tips I have for this episode of Tips and Tricks. Let's go ahead and do a quick recap so we can just kind of close off this video. First tip, don't fucking shit talk at the start of the match. Oh my god, that was hilarious. I was laughing the entire time. No, but the first real tip is to make sure you know where the hills are going to spawn and try your best to predict where they're going to be ending up so you can set up for the hills long before the 10 seconds that the game tells you about. Next, you make sure you're using teamwork. Don't try not to solo queue, but if you absolutely have to solo queue, try to look out for your teammates, be marking targets, doing all that stuff. Try to avoid clustering inside the hill once you have control. Try to focus on the key areas around the hill and make a good setup by understanding where the enemies are going to be respawning and where they're going to be coming from. Fourth was to know where the best rifle positions on the map are and make sure that your team is holding those positions, or if you see the enemy players in those positions, make sure you push them because you do not want your enemy team being in those positions. And then the last tip was, towards the end of the round, you want to make sure you are all clustered inside the hill because that's when the enemy team is going to be making some really desperate plays, and you want to make sure you don't get that hill broken, otherwise it might move and that could cost you the game. And that's going to do it for this tips and tricks videos, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any tips and tricks that you would like to share, feel free to do so in the comments below. Also, let me know if there's a tips and tricks video if you would like to see in the future. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to follow the channel on either YouTube or VidMe. And I also want to just give a quick shout out to VidMe for verifying my channel so quickly. I mean, seriously, I've only been on this platform for a couple of days, but I already got verified. And I really like this platform a lot, so shout out to you guys. Thank you all so much. But anyways, everybody, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed and learned something, and I will see you guys next time.